I'm going to tell you step by step exactly how you can create an Instagram carousel with textures and make it seamless in just under 30 minutes. What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. I help people to create better Instagram content so they can build an engaged community and turn their knowledge into income. Today I'm going to teach you how to create an Instagram carousel using Adobe Illustrator completely from scratch. And fingers crossed we can do it in less than 30 minutes. So without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Right, okay guys, so the first thing you want to do is click on Create New. Open up this window. You see here I've already started inputting information, but obviously you're going to be starting from scratch. What you want to do is don't worry about any of these, is just go straight over to the right and let's just quickly name what our template's going to be. So Instagram carousel template. You want it to be on pixels. That's how we know what's the right size. You've got two choices. If you want it square, then you can have width is going to be 1080, and of course height would be 1080 as well. But if you want to have a portrait carousel, which is the aspect ratio is 4:5, then you want to have a width 1080 and height 1350. Over here where it says artboard, you want to have that as 10 artboards. Scroll down and make sure that your color mode is on RGB, and raster effects, this is basically the PPI. You can choose whatever one you want to, but to be safe go 72 because that is the standard for screens and what they normally have on all screens across the board. Once you've done that, go into more settings. You can see you've got a name, but this is an important part you need to look at. Here you want the numbers to be 10 still. You want your spacing to be 0. This is what helps us to make the seamless carousels. It makes it much easier to design. Out of these boxes you want this one clicked, which is arranged by row, and then we scroll down, we make sure everything's the same. So pixels, yes, 1080 by 1350, no bleed anywhere, RGB, screen 72 PPI, and that's all we need to do. And we're going to click create document. Right, now we've got our document up and we can start to build out our carousels. We're going to start off by making some layers. So let's make a few layers. And the first one, let's name that as background. And look, you can do whatever layers you want. This is just typically how I normally do it. This one is going to be slide collateral. That's what I call it. That could be like your username, your logo, your page numbers. This one's going to be content, so the actual content is going on there. Let's make this one textures. For any textures you want to add over the top. Let's get another layer in there, and this is going to be guides. Now it's important that you have your guides set up effectively and properly. What I like to do, it's very simple, is come to your first artboard, click over on a rectangle tool, and just draw a box, and make sure it's put and aligned into the top corner. Make it black so you can see it, and then you're going to want to copy it and drag this all the way down to the other corner, snap it into place. And then what we're going to do is our rulers aren't up, so we're going to do Command or Control R, and you see how they pop up, and we're going to drag a ruler across so it's out. We've now got a guide, and we're going to snap it in line with this box. Then if you hold down Option on Mac or Alt on Windows, drag across the guide, and we've got another one. Copied it across, snap it into place. We've got two vertical guides, we need horizontal. So go to the top ruler, drag down, gets another guide, and this doesn't want to seem to drag into place, so I'll just click it and move it up. Copy this one, bring it down, and that is in place. Now you can delete those boxes, so we don't need them anymore. Another little step you want to do is come over here, click on the rectangle tool again, and what we're going to do is within these guides is create a square. And then what we do with this square is we're going to move it into the center of the artboard. And what this does is this gives us the outline or a preview of what our content will look like when it's on the feed. So we know that anything for our cover slide that fits within this square is going to show up. And now we can put guides into here. So if we drag the guide and then move it down, so it's in line. Copy it, so remember holding down Option or Alt and dragging. Get our bottom guide, delete the square, and then we've got all the guides that we need. But of course we need our guides for our other artboards, so how do we do that? We see at the moment I'm clicked on this artboard and it's slightly raised. What you can do is highlight the vertical guides, we don't need to highlight the horizontal ones. Click Control C or Command C, and then click onto the next artboard. You see that one's now highlighted. And if I just click Control V, you see that they're pasted into the wrong place, and we don't want that. So delete them. You're going to press instead Control or Command F. So Command F, Control F, and they're going to paste in exactly the position we want to. Repeat that for the rest of the artboards, all the way along. So we've got our guides on every single artboard, and you can see now how structured it is, and we can't really go wrong. Once you've done that, go over to your layers, and we're going to lock this layer. So press the little box here, a little padlock shows up, and you've locked the layer, so now you can't touch them. What we're going to do now is go to your background, and we can add in a background. So very simple. Again, go to the rectangle tool, make sure you click near the corner of the artboard, bring it all the way along, and then drop it down here, make sure it's snapping to the corners. You can make it whatever colour you want to. I'm just going to use my branding, my colours that I use, and I'm going to have it this slightly off black. Depends if you want to add any more to your background, but I'm going to leave it as it is. So I'm going to lock this layer now so that when I click on it, it doesn't move, it stays in place. Next, you want to think about your slide collateral. So like I mentioned earlier, this is things like your username, your logo, and your page numbers. So if you click T on your keyboard, that'll give you the type tool, or you can just click the T over here on the toolbar, drag to whatever size you want, change the font size. For this size, I usually go around 30 to 35 points. That's a good size for your slide collateral. And I'm just going to type in at the Harry Needham. It's in black, so you can't see it at the moment. So I'm going to change the colour to my branding, and then I'm going to drag this. And I can make it a bit small actually. I'm going to make it 30 point, like that. And what you can do is, if you see the text box around it, at the moment when I adjust the text box, it changes where the writing goes. If I double tap this little circle here, the box snaps to the text, and now I can drag and resize if I want to. So this is quite a good way to do it. So Command Z, undo, and I'm going to drag this down and snap it into place there. Now I want my page numbers, so I'm just going to take this, use the same font, drag it. So remember holding down Option or Alt, drag it, click on it, and let's just say 01. And I'm going to move that and drag it into the corner. Once you've done that, you might want to add in your, let's say if you've got a logo. So I've got my logo, I'm just going to drag it in here. That's a bit too big. Change the height, and you can see it's got this X. If I make it a bit bigger for you, it's got this X across the logo. That means it's not embedded. So if you go over to this panel here, you click on this tab, which is Properties, come down and click on Embed. Click that button. All it means is that if you delete the file from your computer, so that is the actual logo itself, if you delete that, it doesn't matter, because the logo file itself is now saved within this actual template. Okay, so now we've got my logo, we've got a slide number, and we've got my username. I'm going to highlight all of them, Control C, Command C, click on the next artboard, and do exactly the same as our guides. We're going to paste them all into place. Now obviously what you'd want to do is change the slide numbers for all of these slides, but I'm going to be lazy today and I can't be bothered to do it, just for the purpose of making this a quicker tutorial. Go back over to your layers and lock that layer. So now if you click on it, you see nothing happens, you can't drag it and move it by accident. Next thing, let's talk about our textures. Now you can put textures in at the end, you can put them in on your backgrounds, you can put them in on your content, you can put them in over the top. I like to do a mix of all three, but here's a few ways to do it. So first, if I find one of my textures, let's go with this one, and I drag it into place. You can see it's like a paper texture. Again, we need to embed it. So properties, embed, perfect. And if we move this, snap it to the edge, drag it across, snap it to that line as well. Obviously our layers are in different order, so if we want it to be below the slide collateral, we have to move that layer down. Now it's below. There's a few things you can do here, a few options. If you click on transparency, there's a little drop down box. You click on that drop down box and you can change the effect of this texture. So if I click darken, you see it slightly changes. It's quite nice. Multiply, can't really see it at all. Color burn, can't see it at all. If I click lighten, you can see, and if we compare it to side by side where there's a texture and no texture, you can see the difference. So I'm going to leave it on lighten. I quite like this effect. I'm going to click it, and I've clicked on this first artboard, Control C, come across, click on this one, Control F, Command F, and it's pasted that exactly in the same position as the first few slides. I'm going to do that all the way along again. And I'm going to lock that in place. So now I've got my texture all the way along my slides. Next thing you want to do is start actually adding in your content, adding in your headlines and adding in your body copy. Now the best thing I can recommend is to set up templates within your file itself. So what you're going to do is click T on your keyboard to open up the text, the type tool, or again click the T, and let's just type in headline in bold writing, change that to 100, and then come off, and I'm just going to change the color. At the moment I'm using Myriad Pro, but I don't want to use this font because it's quite a wide font, so I prefer using Champion Gothic, and there's many different variations of it. And again I'm going to double tap that little circle, and then the good thing about Champion as a font is it's very narrow. You can get a lot more writing in on your cover slides or on all the slides. So I'm going to say how to create an Instagram carousel. Now we obviously need to change the line spacing. You can see it's quite large in the moment, so if you come up to the top here, click on character, you can see this is the line spacing here. So if I know that this is around 200 points in size and I want it to be a little bit less, if I change it to 190, change this to 190, and that's much better then. Then I can drag and adjust this, line it up with my guides, and that's just perfectly in place. Then if I want to, I can highlight part of the text, I can change the color, and I can have both a very light gray and a yellow, which is my branding, which is what I do. Now if you want to add a texture directly to this text, what you can do, click on the text, come over to the toolbar over this side, and we're going to click on transparency again, put this down, and we're going to click on make mask. So if you click on make mask, it will disappear, don't worry. Click on this little one here, clip, so untick that, click on the white box, and now we can only add to this new mask. What I'm going to do, go back, I'm going to grab my texture, drag it in, and now it's gone over the top. Now you can't see it because of the loading, but if I invert the mask, invert again, then you can see the effect it's going to have on the font. If I embed it to make sure it stays there, click invert, and if we zoom in, you can see now the added texture to this writing, which gives it quite a nice effect. Make sure you click off onto the other box, and now you're back to your regular view, and you can now grab and touch up everything again as you need to. Next, once we've done this, you might want to add in some images. So if I go and I grab this picture here that I've got saved, drag it in, this is a PNG, so it's got no background, it's just the image itself. Again, it's got the box with the cross through it, so we need to embed it. So properties, embed, and if we zoom in, check what layer it's on. Right, it's on our content layer, good, and then that's fine. We can leave that as it is for the moment. Now when it comes to finding images, a good place you can look is if you go onto your internet, go onto Google, you can type in Unsplash, which is a very good free option for you. You can go to Free Pick, which can be free, or you can pay for it. And there's other options such as 2020, iStock, which is another good one, paid, but also Envato Elements, which is the best one. And what you would want to do, let's say you want a texture, just type in texture, for example, and you can see the amount of options you get. If you wanted a concrete texture, all you do is simply click on it, click download, and that's it. You just have to add it straight into your file and then get to work using it. When it comes to having images with no background, usually you might, let's just say we want a person, so happy person, and let's say we wanted to have, let's go with this picture, and we download it, we'd put it into another software, so maybe into Photoshop. We need to remove the background, or you can type in a website, it's called remove background, I believe, remove background, remove.bg. You go in here and you can simply upload your image and it will remove the background for you, and then you can download it as a PNG and add it straight into your carousel straight after that. Then you're going to want to think about your body copy. This needs to be small enough that it's not overwhelming, but then not too small that people can't read it. So for me, I like to go for a 50-point size, and I'll use Helvetica in general, or maybe Helvetica Now display font. You can choose whatever font you want to use, but choose something that's easily readable. So I've got a 50-point size. Obviously the line spacing isn't correct, so change this again back down to 50. And now we've got, change the color, this, type in, this is the body copy for my Instagram carousel. If I check, yep, so it's formatted like that. If I drag it over to here, if I just center justify it for the moment, and you can see I can leave it there. If you're only using 1 or 2 lines, then you're okay to center justify it. So up here you've got left justified or center. If you're going to use more than 2 lines, make sure you align it to the left. It's much easier to read. But if it's just 2 lines, then it's okay if you want to align it center. But let's leave it to the left for the time being. Once you've done this, you've now got your headlines and your body copy perfectly formatted. So what I recommend, grab the 2, hold down Option or Alt, and just drag them up off of the artboards. So now what you can do is when you save this carousel or this template and you come back to it, you can just reuse these elements very easily. You can just drag and drop them straight into your carousel, and it just helps you speed up your process rather than having to keep copy and pasting from a template or from previous slides. Now what we want to do is probably add in some more, let's say, exciting elements, some transitions to make it a bit more interesting. So go back to your rectangle tool, click here, and you can drag down, and let's add in 2 slides of a new color, and let's make it yellow. What you're going to need to do though is your content layer at the moment, you've got to open it up, so click the little drop down arrow and see where the rectangle has been placed. It's high up, so we're going to drag it below the layers, so now it's underneath those layers. We're going to want to change the color of this so we can actually see it. And obviously the issue now is our content layer is above our slide collateral, so again drag it down below and we can now see our slide collateral as well. But we also will need our texture, so drag your textures above and then we should be able to see that. Of course, depending on the color of your background, different textures will show up in different ways. That's just the way it is, you can't change that. But what you can do if you want to, if I unlock the textures, do Control C, and then what I'll do is I will crop this texture So I right click on crop, bring it in like this, and then press enter. And then if I Control C, Control F, what I can do now, so I'll put that onto my content layer by accident, I'll move it back to my textures, move it back to my textures layer, come over to transparency, and I can change transparency mode again and see how I want it to look like. Obviously the different options give you different results. And let's say I keep it on, let's go with screen, seems the best. So screen, you can just see the texture, very delicate texture, but nonetheless it makes all the difference. All the little details add up. Now what we've done here is our image here acts like a transition element. So when you swipe from the dark background to the yellow background, if we didn't have this image, then it would just be quite a boring transition. But having that image in there creates a really nice transition and makes it very seamless going from one slide to the next. So if you are wanting to play around with your design, then it's a really good idea to think about, changing up your background color, keep it on brand. So within each carousel, try to only have 1 or 2 background colors, but using images is a great way to transition between the 2 colors. Or if you want to, another little trick is let's click on here, hold down, and let's say for example we want to do a triangle. So we'll go to the star tool, come along to here, and we're going to drag. And if you click while you're still holding the mouse, click the down arrow, and you can change how many sides. So now we've got a triangle, and we can adjust this how we want to. So for example, we can do this, drag it down, and then we can change the color. So change the color to the same as the background color, and there you go. You've got a really nice, cool transition. You can move it along. Of course, you need to adjust it and change it to how you want it to look. But now we've got another interesting transition between the yellow and the dark background. Once you've done that, all you need to do is make sure that you lock any layers you don't want to adjust, so you're not getting anything confused. And then just start adding in your content. Start copy and pasting your copywriting from your notes, start getting more images, and just keep adding to it and make it as interesting as possible. Just remember that your guides are the most important thing. There is no point putting guides in place if you're going to go over them. Okay, they're there for a reason. The more sort of strict you can be with your guides, the much better your content will look, the much higher quality it will look. And ultimately that's going to help you to attract, and turn the strangers into followers, and hopefully the strangers into clients as well. Okay, remember about hierarchy. A good thing you can do is, instead of just having one bold headline text, is let's get rid of how to. Oh, let's move that away for a moment. Get rid of how to, bring that down. And then we can use hierarchy, which is just one of the design elements which works. So having the smaller text alongside the larger text, and it just adds another element of interest to this design, and you can use that throughout. Then that's it. All you have left to do is just start to put the rest of your content into your carousel. Once it's completely finished, all you're going to do is come up to File, you're going to click on Export, Export As, and you're going to click, and it's obviously it might look different on your laptop, your computer, whether you're a Mac or a Windows user, but you want it to be on JPEG. You can use PNG, but I prefer JPEG. Click on Artboard, so use Artboards. Click on Range, so we've got 1 to 10. If you just wanted to export a few slides, and you can do that, you can just choose the range of the slides you want to export. Click on Export, and here quality should be at 10 all the time. There's no reason to have that any less. And then you can choose the resolution. Minimum needs to be 72. You can go above to 300, but I've tested and they don't make that much of a difference. But I have found 150 ppi to be a bit of a sweet spot for me personally. That seems to come out the clearest, and it doesn't get compressed by Instagram, because if your file is too big when you upload to Instagram, if your resolution is too high, then the algorithm actually compresses your images to align with the standards that Instagram has when you're uploading. And if your post is being compressed too much, that can end up creating what Instagram sees as a lower quality post, which can lead to your post actually getting less reach, less engagement, and actually performing much worse. Not because it's a bad piece of content, but because you've not optimized the resolution to what it needs to be. So have it at either 72 or 150, then press OK. And then that will export your artwork. Wait for it to export. Once that's done, come off to where I've saved it, and you can see I've got all of my slides saved on my desktop. And you can see here, this would be the cover slide. If we get up slide 2, and this would be the second slide. You can see how when they're lined up, obviously not perfect, but how they will work together and how that transition is very, very seamless between the two. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop a thumbs up, and also feel free to check out my other videos on my channel, including this one, which tells you a bit more detail on how I create content, and also this video here, which is about my strategies I personally use to grow my page from 0 to 100,000 followers in just under 10 months. So other than that, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.